let's start with the prompt. We're looking for a finding that is going to support the conclusion. And what is the conclusion? Several studies have shown an inverse correlation between sediment grain size and downstream distance, suggesting that stream length has a sorting effect on the sediment. So when you read these things, it's kind of all about what you don't read. As you can see, I don't read every word myself. But the second part of that sentence kind of said what we needed to know. So if we need more information, we can always come back. But the real key to doing this is to take what you need and not get emotionally affected by the things that didn't register in your mind as you read them. So we see that the stream has a sorting effect in the sediment. It's sorting them according to size. So here, in a study of sediment sampled at a bunch of sites, however, these other scientists found that cross-site variations in grain size were not associated with differences in downstream distance. In other words, they're not being sorted. The variations in size are not associated with the downstream distance. The stream is not sorting the grains according to their size. It's not correlating. Although they did not conclude that downstream distance is irrelevant to grain size. So they didn't see the correlation, but that didn't cause them to go against the original hypothesis. Rather, they concluded that the sediment influx in these streams may have been sufficiently spatially diffuse to prevent the typical sorting effect. So let's take apart that last sentence. They're saying that the sediment that's coming in, the influx, is spatially diffuse, and that's preventing the typical sorting effect from being observed. So they're saying the sand, which is what sediment is coming in from different areas. It's spatially diffuse, and therefore you're not going to see a nice, clean sorting effect because the places where the sand is being deposited are kind of, out of order anyway. And that's why we're not seeing that effect. Although they're saying, they're not necessarily concluding that the effect doesn't exist. It's just that there's another dynamic at play that's causing it to not show up in the results as much. So let's look at the answers now. A says, okay, well, we're looking for something that supports, by the way, the latest conclusion, because it says Liddy and this name, and those are the names we're seeing right here. So A says, the streams regularly experience portions of their banks collapsing into the water at multiple points. So the banks are collapsing into the water at multiple points upstream. So that seems to match the red statement that says that the sediment influx, the depositing of sand, is spatially diffuse. It's at different multiple points. It's not at one single location. So A sounds pretty good. B, the streams contain several types of sediment that are not typically found in streams where the sorting effect has been demonstrated. Well, the hypothesis had nothing to do with the types of sediment. And C, the streams mostly originate from the same source, but their lengths vary considerably due to the different courses they take. We didn't really see any discussion of the different lengths having an effect in the passage. And D, the streams are fed by multiple tributaries that carry significant volumes of sediment that enter the streams downstream of sampling sites. Well, although we're going for the idea that the sediment is being deposited in random ways, if it's being deposited downstream, that's going to really mess everything up because the experiment itself said that they were measuring downstream distance. And so I think the idea of that is that, the downstream area is the area that's being measured. So if things are entering and they're already downstream, I think that's kind of too crazy to even be able to take a result, if that makes sense. But the answer that sounded good here was A, because it talked about different effects. Portions of the banks were collapsing into the water at multiple points upstream. So there's kind of a randomness of the way the sediment was being set up to begin with, and that was causing the sorting effect to not show up. although D was sort of too extreme. It was the idea that the water was coming in downstream at the very place where they were going to measure the sorting effect. So that would have just totally ruined the experiment. So the answer here is A.